Now, the Attorney General of the Federation said that the federal government will obey the ruling, but then the government said it would take necessary steps to set aside the interim order. Now, what do you make of what the federal government is saying? Because to some people, it's like I'm speaking from both sides of the mouth. What do you think the federal government's stance is based on what it has said?
Okay, first of all, we all know that there is a ruling by the Supreme Court asking for a stay of execution of the policy. And the Attorney General, as the Chief Law Officer of the federal government, has no option but to comply. Now, when he says that the federal government will obey the ruling, but will take time to set aside that ruling, what he's trying to infer is that the federal government will approach the courts again to contest that decision by the apex court, meaning that the federal government will not just sit down, is hoping that it can argue its way with the Supreme Court justices to look to also try to look at the issue from the federal government's perspective. But as it stands, the court has ruled that there should be a stay of execution till February the 15th, when it will pass a final judgment on that matter. Nigerians are looking forward to that date because the Supreme Court is the apex court, and the voice of the Supreme Court in democracies is almost like the voice of God.
So you've moved around, Amadin. What do you think the response of citizens have been or is in terms of the Supreme Court's ruling? Do you think they're still agitated about swapping their currencies, or do you think there's a bit of ease on their part?
No, I don't think this has made any change. It has made any difference, because just this morning we heard that in neighboring Nassau State, which shared borders with the FCT, a bank was set ablaze. So it has not, because the ruling did not reduce the hardship of citizens. Citizens are still faced with this scarcity of cash. They cannot afford their basic necessities. They go to the ATMs, there's no cash, the banks are not dispensing, and nobody is giving citizens the excuse why the banks are not dispensing. We understand that the ICPC carried out several raids in the last few days, made several arrests. But have these raids improved the situation with citizens? No, you can't go out. I took a drive around the FCT this morning, and I still see people on queues. I still see people unable to access cash, and I still see POS operators charging humongous sums to be able to dispense cash to citizens. So the hardship still persists. Nigerians will be hoping that the final judgment by the Supreme Court will bring some sort of respite to citizens.
All right, Amadin, stay with me for a while. Let me connect with Bernard. Hello, Bernard, are you there?
Yes, Leko, I can hear you. I'm here.
All right, beautiful. So tell us now, you moved around some banks and some ATM and cash points. What do you see? Do we still have long queues and throngs of people around trying to see how they can get these new currencies, or maybe swap their currencies for the new one, despite the fact that the Supreme Court has come out to say that there is a stay on execution of the deadline on the currency swap? Are they even aware that the Supreme Court has even passed a ruling? What obtains in your access?
Well, Leko, basically, just like what Amadin said earlier before me, whatever the Supreme Court has said hasn't made any difference as far as I'm concerned to the way the people feel. If you can take a look behind me, I'm not sure if you can see very clearly. There's a bank right there. The crowd has reduced. I'm not sure if it has reduced because the ATM is dispensing money or because it has stopped and the people have decided to go. But right now where I am, on Adeola Odeku Street in Victoria Island, there are at least 6 banks at a stretch to my left right here, and in total there are about 9 commercial bank branches that are housed on the entire stretch of this particular street. And it's the same thing that has been operating in the past few weeks. Some don't have anybody in front of them because the ATMs are not dispensing or because the banks are completely shut, while others have unnecessarily and unusually long queues in front of them. Some of them, people queuing up even before the banks open for operations, because they are hoping that these ATMs will eventually begin to dispense cash. So regardless of what the court has come out to say, regardless of what the ruling of the court is, it's business as usual, sadly, for Nigerians. Many of them, all they just want is their money. Unfortunately, still being exploited by POS operators, and then the ATM machines not dispensing cash. For the ones that are dispensing, not dispensing enough, of course, because that this cash scarcity has lingered on for just too long.
Well then, Bernard, let me quickly put this to you. Now, economists say that the CBN policy is fantastic, but the implementation is poor and bereft of touching realities. Now, do you think this echoes the sentiment of some people that you might have come across around these ATM points? Or what are they saying?
Well, to be honest, when you begin to look at analyzing the policies, not many Nigerians, first of all, understand what these banking policies or economic policies are. For the few Nigerians who understand, some have said, yes, these policies may have been good, but implementation is the problem, like so many other things in Nigeria. But for the low-income earners, for Nigerians in the lower strata of the society, first of all, many of them do not understand these policies. All they know is Naira and Kobo. All they want is their money. So if you have good policies that do not, or that the implementation of these policies do not favor the people, it's as good as not having good policies at all. Unfortunately, for those whom we have spoken to and who refuse to speak on camera, I must say, as a matter of fact, a gentleman came close to us speaking with a lot of anger in his voice. All right, and that's because he doesn't want to understand whatever policies the government has. All he wants is to gain access to his money. You have people saying the month has ended, it's a new month, they've been paid salaries, but they cannot access these salaries. They have families to feed, they have sick ones to tend to and to cater for, yet they cannot access their money. So again, to answer your question, a good policy is as good as a working policy. If the policy is not working, regardless of how good the idea was, if the implementation is bad, it's as good or as bad as not having a good policy.
All right, thank you so much, Bernard. Let me quickly wrap up with Amadin. So what do you make of, quickly, just in about a minute or two, what do you make of bank officials and banks who have been accosted or have been arrested for hoarding Naira notes? What do you make of that? Because some people are saying that this is one of the bane of the sabotages to the policies of the CBN.
Lekan, the truth about the matter is that first of all, when the CBN was bringing out this policy, it would have prepared for this kind of scenarios. It was because the CBN did not live up to its responsibilities to properly monitor the policy. That was why bank officials were able to take advantage of the situation to be able to hoard cash or do whatever they do, such that the cash cannot get to citizens. Now, it tells you, Bernard said a statement which is fundamentally clear. A good policy can be measured with the yardstick of its workability. Is the policy working? The average Nigerians on the street don't want to know, are not concerned with government policy. All they want is result. And remember, no man is commended for efforts, but for results. If the effort the CBN has put, fair enough. If we say it was good, what is the result of that policy? We are talking because we are in the city center.
Okay.
Go to states like my state, where a lot of farming is done, where a lot of raw materials are sold at farmsteads. Those people deal in cash. How do you want businesses to survive? So the truth about the matter, we must measure it in terms of its workability.
All right, thank you so much, Amadin and Bernard, for joining the discussion. Of course, it's been said that the Central Bank of Nigeria did not conduct its feasibility studies. As laudable, as interesting, and as fantastic as the policies it was bringing out might be, it did not conduct enough feasibility studies looking at the dynamics of this country before putting it to bed or implementing them. But then we'll continue to see what happens or what pans out in terms of the legal tussle between the federal government and, of course, the Supreme Court and all those who have vested interest in this situation. But then that's where we draw the curtains on Business Edge for today.